The means must be the end. Now, I know it's trite to say that the journey is all that matters, and we need to fall in love with the journey because the destination yields almost only a moment of satisfaction, and then it's gone. And all we truly have is the journey, because the end of life is death. So to not enjoy the journey is to not enjoy life, per se. And truly, the means should be the end. The road is the goal, and we should not we should not allow ourselves to rush the journey. We should not allow ourselves to rush along the road of life without enjoying it and allowing the means to be the end, to do certain things in and of themselves for themselves, and to truly enjoy the present moment in them. Now, there is a time and a place for this, and there is also a time and a place for doing things for certain ends. But a life lived only to a means, to some end, is not a life. It is never truly embarked on in the present moment. It is always waiting to live. It is always doing something now in service to later. And then when that later comes, it is then again doing something now for another time later. And one truly never encompasses the present moment in this. One truly never enjoys the journey in doing this. One only continues on the road for some hope in the future, for some distant goal that isn't all we make it out to be. Because as I said, the goalpost will always move. There's every peak is a false peak. And when we put our life on, or we put our well-being in the fact that this peak won't be false, that the goalpost won't move, we jeopardize our well-being along the journey and on the obtaining of the goal, because there's also no fruit in obtaining the goal. There is a fruit in big goal and big achievements, but when you place expectations on that goal that are unrealistic, like it will bring you lifetime happiness, like it will make all the suffering worth it, like it will do things of that nature, it'll make you eternally happy and blissful. You will be able to recall that goal, that memory, that obtaining of the thing each time you're saddened, you're suffering, you're depressed, and you will instantly get lifted out of it because of that one goal that you achieved. I know that sounds insane to say, but it almost seems like that's what we expect these things we strive for to give us. It seems like that's what we expect our goals to do. And some people don't even have goals. And these people are also misguided, for their their means is not the end, because they don't even understand there is an end. They don't understand that there is a means. They are just naive, walking through life, and their ignorance is their bliss. But ignorance is not bliss, because it's far too fragile to be bliss. One thing, and as Buddha said, life is suffering, and these people, they don't see that. They don't understand that notion. And when the suffering comes, as it inevitably must, they are destroyed. Their bliss is gone. They have no they have no satisfaction in looking back on the past, and they have no hope for looking upon the future. And they only know how to take one step, which is a virtue, but there's deep-seated vices in that virtue. Just as often our vices do have virtues mixed in with them, but the intentions and the reasons we partake in them are so often vices. But if we can overcome them, then they do become virtues. For instance, shyness is a vice. To be shy is for sure a vice. You don't speak your truth when you should. You're not quiet. You're quiet when you shouldn't be. things of that nature. But you're starting from a baseline of virtue in the fact that you are slow to speak and quick to listen. You have a virtue in your shyness. You just need to come out of it, not overcorrect, but find the middle ground of being slow to speak, quick to listen. But when it's time to speak your truth and you can think you can benefit the situation, you don't allow shyness to stop you. You don't allow yourself to be scared of being vulnerable because you understand if it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing for you to do. And virtue is never convenient. So you don't allow the notion that this is inconvenient to deter you from your virtue. And that's just one example on how a vice can be a virtue and a virtue a vice, and how a little bit of a correction can yield much fruit. For there is virtue in your vices and vices in your virtue, and you just need to find the medium, find the middle ground of it. And that's, I mean, similar to what Aristotle says when he talks about virtue and talks about nothing in excess, because courage and courage in excess is um, hmm, I'm forgetting the right terminology, but it's pretty obvious. It's the person who rushes in too quick, who doesn't think about the situation, and in the end gets more people hurt than would get hurt. The person who doesn't think, just just acts. At a first glance, it looks like courage, but it's actually just, oh, I can't believe I can't think of the word. Rashness? Maybe rashness. They're just being rash. But also courage, not too much courage is, cowardice and never taking a stand for your principles and what you believe in and all those things. And Aristotle would also say, it's better to be on one side. And I think in courage, Aristotle says it's better to be rash than to be a coward, because it's easier to temper back your rashness than it is to advance your cowardness. And I think we can see that in all the vices and the virtues. They don't differ in nature, they differ in degree. They're not different in, as I said, they're not different in nature. They're just different in degree and differ in how they get executed. But they have the same nature. And the person who, as I was saying, lives only in the present moment, who their ignorance is bliss, they are there is virtue in their vice, but and they may be on the better side. They may be on the better side, the better degree of that nature, to be able to be fully immersed in the present than to self-sacrifice everything for a future that never comes. But it is still a vice because they have no foresight. They have nothing of that nature. And therefore, their present is an end in itself, but they're also building nothing great with their presence, which is a paradox. I know it's hard to grapple these things. It's hard to find the medium, but we must find a journey that we can take. We must find a journey where the goal is virtuous, worthwhile pursuing, but we also, to get there, the means is an end in itself. So as our means are ends in themselves, it's allowing us to get to a position of a goal that's virtuous and an end in of itself, and allowing us to enjoy the journey, because that's all there is, without rushing or without haste, because to rush or to haste is just to rush to your death. And I don't know what the point of that is. Just enjoy the journey and let the means be the end to a virtuous goal that you don't place your whole well-being in, a goal that you can make sacrifices for in the moment, but also a goal that the sacrifice, hmm, Yeah, scratch that. Nothing in excess. I think I got the point across.